So this revolution also needs to meet customers' demands. And so when you look at personalization, it's about understanding the customer. And when you look at what we're driven by as users, as customers ourselves, is we're driven by these great experiences from a very small number of companies. You take Facebook, for instance. We are used to Facebook changing experiences on us regularly. They change their site 2 to 3 times a year. The average e-commerce business is updating their site maybe 2 to 3 times every 5 years or 10 years. So Facebook moves at a rate that's very fast, and they create a higher expectation on the user to see these sort of ease and sort of great experiences on websites. And what we wanted to understand was, what's the global trend now around customer experience? What's the focus? So we commissioned a study with Forrester. We found that now marketers are 50% of marketers are focused on the customer experience. And 2 years ago, the bulk of the focus was on acquisition, primarily acquisition and social. We saw that marketing and e-commerce teams will have 84% of the spending budget for IT. And so that's coming away from the traditional IT groups, and that's because the actual capital infrastructure is changing. We're moving to the cloud. Things are looked at on an operational expenditure rather than a capital expenditure. OpEx sit much more with marketing and e-commerce teams. So that's having a fundamental shift in how actual spending is being made. And so looking at how do you apply this? So this is sort of, we've talked a little about the theory and the changes in the market, but what does this actually look like when you start to apply it? And it's going away from the pure data, the pure thinking about tech, and it's actually going back to thinking about your customer. And this is really exciting stuff because you're thinking about your user. And what we see is, at the moment, like New York, it's like constant weather changing, and there's a huge amount of personalization that's just flying over the wire to help create that experience based off the weather. And weather has a big impact on sales. And so looking at things like what the weather's going to be like tomorrow, we offer next day delivery, have you got your warm jacket, is stuff that creates double-digit uplifts in conversion. Because it really actually gets the person to think, actually, yeah, the weather is changing, I don't have a jacket. It's doing a great job of a salesperson. So you're actually, through personalization, creating a great salesperson. And so you can use personalization to show people content to drive them around the site. And this is something Farfetch did. They just explained to users that had looked at about 7 or more page views, they showed them how to shop on Farfetch. And that drove 17% increase in sales. It took literally 10 minutes to do this. And so that's the opportunity. It's really obvious stuff as well. And it's about being able to surface that, find it, and then action it quickly. And getting into this challenge around this massive basket abandonment issue, looking at what LK Bennett did, is that they wanted to tempt previous purchasers. They knew these people had bought. They knew they'd had a positive experience. They wanted to tempt them into buying again because they put something in the basket and they were sort of dithering. And so all they did was give free delivery specifically to a set of VIP previous purchasers, and that drove sales by 11% for that high value group. That's the 0.3% type group that you want to target with this type of experience. So it really gets to being able to not cannibalize your margin, drive sales with your most valuable customers, and start to think of all your customer segments as different personas going through different life cycles, and what you want to do for each of those. And I think typically what I always draw this analogy to, it's sort of like 20 cells in an Excel spreadsheet. It's 20 cells, and that's your 20 different strategies of persona and life cycle, and what you want to do for each of those 20 cells. And that gets you real sort of benefits from just doing that type of simple personalization. And then, geo-targeting, again, it's a really simple approach. This is Topshop trying to do international in the US. Huge market, really cool brand in the UK. They're looking at doing sort of very pinpointed strategic international strategy. And for UK, international, Tony talked about this, international is the big opportunity. The UK market is pretty small. So these great brands can go international very, very quickly and test things out. And here's what they're doing. For instance, in California, they wanted to show how much they love Californians, and had a huge impact on sales just from reiterating, we know you're in California. And so that's really simple, powerful stuff again. And so what we look at is the most important thing beyond the technology. The most important thing is the team. It's the teams that you build in your organization and making sure those teams work together effectively. And so the e-commerce team of the future eCommerce Futures, put the brand in, is the data analyst. You have that analyst. They're able to understand the customer data. They're not just doing reports. They're not just doing PDFs. They're actually an analyst. They're asking questions, interrogating the data, building hypotheses. That's effective. Then you've got the creative marketer. And the creative marketer is the person who can look at the hypothesis that the analyst has created and can say, I've got 5 ideas for how we can fix that. And I know my customer, and I can see that this is a problem. Let's try some ideas for how to fix this. Then the JavaScript engineer, we're seeing more and more JavaScript engineers within e-commerce teams because it's a very lightweight, agile front-end language that lets you make changes to your site without having to go through complete overhaul of your back-end content management platforms or other systems. It really enables you to do clever things. Countdown timers written in JavaScript. Weather is written in JavaScript. All these things are done as front-end. So getting a JavaScript engineer in your team enables you to be really quick. And then it's about having that on-site merchandiser, and they're the product expert. They're the ones who know about what sells and why and that look. And you bring that person in because they're the expert into the macro about what's trending and what's being bought. And that's the sort of winning team. And the simple things, tag management is a terribly boring subject. I mean, it's really boring. It's about schema. It's about structuring data. I love it. I'm passionate about tag management. Which is bizarre, but I am passionate about it. And so, what you get with tag management is you're able to make your website work faster. Lindsay talked about the speed at which, a couple of seconds in load would actually lead to a dramatic impact in conversion. Tag management helps group tags, make them run faster, run more accurate, and it helps you be faster in integrating new technologies, trying new technologies, getting rid of bad technologies. And so that creates a lot of disruption. So, tag management's growing faster than web analytics is growing. So we'll see in about 4 years, over 50% of websites will use tag management. So it is growing rapidly. And Google's got a free product that's very good, the Google Analytics product. And looking at what you do with that is you create that structured data model. And this data model isn't boring data. This is actually getting to know your customer better. This is helping you understand the colors of products your customers looked at, the size of the products, the weight, the stock availability. You're creating that information about what your user was looking at, so then you can interrogate that information and personalize around it. And so it gets you closer to your customer. And that's why marketers need to think about the data model and how they're actually approaching this. And then you use that to then mine for insights and looking for those really quite obvious reasons why people didn't buy, and using that information to create those experiences around that. And the sort of insights that I love that we look at for our customers on our technology is at lunchtime, there's a 33% increase in propensity to buy, because people have saved that time at lunch to then buy something. We see that at the beginning of a month when somebody's been paid. We have a monthly pay cycle in the UK. At the beginning of the month, on a Wednesday morning, you're 17% less price sensitive. And so, on that lunchtime on a Wednesday, after everybody's been paid, make sure you don't have the wrong information up on the site. Make sure you don't have the early stage discovery information. Make sure you're showing the information about the products the customer was looking at when they visited your site before, because almost nobody buys on a first visit. And so make sure that you're showing the products they were looking at lunch, so they come back and boom, they buy. No distractions. Now, these are the things that really also drive that impact in conversions. So, it's making sure you have the right culture in the organization. It's making sure you have this culture that loves data, that loves to make changes quickly, that loves to be agile. That is a cultural shift. Again, far more important than technology. It's a cultural shift that needs to happen. It needs to happen at CEO level all the way through the business. And really, that culture should love to test. It should love to try things. It should love to say, look, we can't decide on which version to do, so we'll try both. We'll A/B test it. There's so many great A/B testing systems in the market that let you try this sort of thing and really get results out there.